Okay, in this video, I'm going to talk about some global event attributes. So this section was all about global attributes, and this video I'm going to be talking about event attributes, which are a little bit different. So this is the file that I'm going to be using. I have all these styles here. So I'm going to go over it really quick, just a quick rundown. So everything inside the HTML is being set to this Arimo font. I'm putting some padding on the body. Divs are getting some padding on the left and margin on the top. I'm setting the font size of the H1, the font weight of the H2. The block quote is getting a font size, border left, padding left. The site tag is getting a font size, text align center, all this stuff here. So buttons getting some padding, background color, border radius, border none, outline none, and on hover, buttons will be a little bit transparent. So let me close this now. So I have this little space here for JavaScript. And then there's this, the H1. So let's go here. Okay, so this is what we're going to be making in this video. So you click generate quote, and it generates a funny programming quote. You keep clicking it, and it just keeps generating quotes. Never trust a computer, you can't throw out the window. A lot of this is repetitive. I don't know why there's 20 quotes here. I like this one. One of my most productive days was throwing away 1,000 lines of code. That's pretty cool. And if you could double click this, it clears it, and you hover over this and it makes it a little bit bigger. That's what we're going to be making in this video. So this is what we got right now. This is what we're working with. Okay, so on body, I want to do an on resize. So I'm going to make a function called get window properties. So before we make that little quote generator, I want to explain the on resize attribute. So this will trigger every time the window is resized. So every time the window is resized, this function will get called. So let's make it. It's kind of weird how okay, function get window properties, and let's say let width is equal to window dot inner width. Let's just copy that, change this to inner height, and change this to height. And then I say document dot get element by ID. And this element doesn't exist yet, but it will in a second. I'll create it. So inner HTML is equal to width. And just copy this again. Make it height. Make this, find the height. And that's it. So here, let's make an H2 and say window height, and put a span with the ID of width. And this should say width here. And then copy it, change it to height, and then put that to height. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay. Now when the page is resized, it shows whatever the current width is. So this is actually pretty useful. Not maybe useful for putting the values on the screen, but maybe to console.log them to help with CSS media queries to know exactly where you should apply new styles. So if you're shrinking your, let's close this here. So maybe you think, okay, at 1333, maybe change the layout. And maybe again at, whatever, 750. Doesn't really matter, that's not the point. Okay, so that's going to be it for the on resize. Pretty simple. Let me delete this. I'll delete this too. Okay, now I'm going to make the quote generator. And to do that, I'm going to need an array of quotes. So I'm going to go grab that. Okay, so here's all the quotes. Like I said, there's a lot of them. I think the JavaScript random number generator isn't that good because it seems to only loop through the same 6 numbers, the same 6 quotes. Like if you look here. See, that just said first solve your problem, then write the code. It said that twice within the first 5 clicks. Then there it is a third time. Not that one. But I tend on seeing these same quotes here over and over again. Anyways, that's not the point. So here's the quotes. I'm going to be using these. Should probably indent this. Huh. Looks like the indenting is off here. That looks right. Okay, now let's close it. Okay, so up here, let's say button, type of button, name, I don't need a name, and let's put an on-click event, and it will run a function called generate quote. Okay, and another one called, let's just say on double click, on DBL click, and run a function called clear quotes, and let's just make it say clear quotes, and one more button, and this is for making the text bigger. So on mouse over, run a function called grow text. Let's say grow quote. And here there should be an on mouse out. Make a function called shrink text. Okay, let's see what this looks like here. Okay, so all the styles are right, but nothing happens when you generate quotes. Okay, so function generate quote, and I want to store a variable here called old index. And the purpose of this is to make it so every time you click a quote, it will not show you the same quote that was already there. So every time you click it, the quote will change. So it's basically it's deciding which quote to show based on a random number. So if you get a random number of 10, when you click this, if you get a random number of 10, it will show you the 10th quote. Then if you click it again and it generates 10 again, it would show you the same quote that it was already showing you. So it would look like nothing happened. So to prevent that, I'm going to put in some JavaScript here that keeps track of the old index and makes it so that when you click on generate quote, it's going to run some logic that checks if the new random number is the same as the old one. And if it is, it's going to cancel that one and rerun the code until it's not the same. Okay, so let index is equal to get random, and I'm gonna have to create this random number, the get random function, 0, then quotes dot length. Okay, so here it is. Here's the get random function. It takes a min and a max, then it returns a random number. Okay, so let's continue here. And then here I'm going to say old index is equal to index, and then document dot get element by ID. Say quote dot inner HTML is equal to quotes index dot quote. Let's copy this. And these elements don't exist right now. I'm gonna go create them. So this spelled that wrong. So the quote and author is here. This is the quote, and this is the author. I kind of like this quote too. Okay, and I think that's it. And yeah, we have to make those two elements with those IDs that I just referenced. So first it's going to be a block quote, and I'm not going to be using this. And I could do this all on one line. Just put an ID of quote, and here site ID of site. And if you're wondering why I didn't just use the get elements by tag name and just get block quote rather than an ID of quote, is because that would return an array and then I'd have to loop through the array. So the get element by ID just returns one element, and then you could easily just say the inner HTML of that element. That's why I did it like that. Okay, so let's see what we have so far here. Let's click this. This is the one we're working with. Okay, so that's pretty cool. There's probably an error right now. Yeah. Okay, so let's go make those functions. They're pretty small. Function clear quotes, then document dot get element by ID dot inner HTML is equal to nothing, and then get quote, and this is site, and this is the same thing, just reset their inner HTMLs to be nothing, empty. Then function grow text, and let's copy these and just change them a little bit. So document.get element by ID, so .style .font size is equal to 180 plus %. Okay, and I should have just done it like this, because now this is the exact same. I just need to change the ID that it's getting to site. So style.font size is equal to 180%. And then let's just copy this whole function, call it shrink text, and let's change these percentages to pixels, and this to 22, and this one to 16. Okay, so that's working. Clearing it is working. Now I don't know if you just noticed that, but I clicked generate quote and the quote didn't change. It's kind of rare for it to happen. Like that, it just happened again. So I clicked it and it didn't change, and I was clicking pretty fast, so you may have missed it, but it's happening. And it's a pretty annoying thing, but you can get around that by having a function. Let me put these all down here. and have a function called isSame. And it's going to take an int, and if int is equal to old index, then generate quote. And return true. Else return false. So I'm going to talk a little bit of what's going on here. First, let's go up here and say if is same, and then the index. So basically, it's going to store the old index up here, then it's going to get a new one, and when this code runs, it's going to ask if it's the same, and if it is, actually this should return right here. So if this returns true, so if these are the same, then it will return true, and if it returns true, the rest of this code won't run. So this function will be left. This generate quote function will be left and it won't complete. But right down here from isSame, this will recall generate quote. So then it will retry and it will get a new index, and then it will check if it's the same again, and if it is, then it will return true, and when that happens, this generate quote will then again not complete, but then it will be called again right here. So that's basically the logic behind this. So now a new quote will be generated every time you click. Okay, so that's it for this video. Actually, over here, I just noticed that this should be on mouse over. It doesn't really change anything, but it is different. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. And there's also another one actually that I could do right here, is on load. And then I could say do generate quote on load. So now when the page loads, it will automatically generate a new quote. So that's pretty cool.